The article China-Iran Strategic Partnership Agreement and New Regional Order is written by Shazia Cheema. She is an analyst writing for national and international media outlets including Pakistan Observer, Eurasia Diary, Insight, and MENA News Agency. She heads the Thought Center of Dispatch News Desk, DND. She did her MA in Cognitive Semiotics from Aarhus University, Denmark, and is currently registered as a Ph.D. Scholar of Semiotics and Philosophy of Communication at Charles University Prague. She can be reached at her Twitter at Shazia ch email, shaziaanwar@yahoo.com. Listen hear her article. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi signed the highly anticipated Iran-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Agreement after more than 5 years of grueling talks, reports Russian state-run news agency Sputnik. Neither China nor Iran have made public details of the agreement, but regional experts believe it was largely unchanged from an 18-page leaked document by New York Times. The phrase strategic partnership agreement is the crux of this entire event. China has not said that there will be few mutual projects which can benefit both the countries, or China and Iran are collaborating on something. Categorically explaining that Iran and China are going to be strategic partners from now on, means a lot different as anticipated. I would like to dwell more on the phrase strategic partnership for additional clarification. Sputnik reports that the Chinese foreign minister after the signing ceremony stated that relations with Iran will not be affected by the current situation, but will be permanent and strategic because Iran decides independently on its relations with other countries and is not like some countries that change their position with one phone call. Background of Iran-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Iran-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership was proposed by President Xi Jinping during his visit to Iran in 2016. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani took the approval of the agreement from his cabinet before parleys to decide macro-level details. In June 2020, the Iranian draft was shared with Beijing, which was leaked by New York Times. According to the leaked draft, the agreement includes Chinese investment worth over $280 billion in the oil and gas sector of Iran, and the revival of the New Silk Road. According to the leaked document, China will be able to buy any and all Iranian oil, gas, and petrochemical products at a minimum guaranteed discount of 12 PC to the 6-month rolling mean price of comparable benchmark products, plus another 6 PC to 8 PC of that metric for risk-adjusted compensation. What does strategic partnership mean to China and Iran? Strategic partnerships, SBS, constitute a novel form and feature of the evolving international relations system and represent a new principle for organizing international life. Seen broadly, strategic partnerships represent a type of special relationship and thus are not unique or new at all. However, should one take a closer look into the internal mechanics of the partnership phenomenon and explore its distinctive foreign political functions from its changing geostrategic context, it becomes clear that with the reconfiguration of the international relations system since the early 1990s, strategic partnerships have become the necessary key to cope with systemic and issue-specific international challenges. Andra Tyushka and Lucina Chekoska. In an academic paper titled Strategic Partnerships, International Politics, and IR Theory, Andra Tyushka wrote that since 1993, when China made its first strategic partnership with Brazil, and by 2014 China had forged close to 70 strategic partnerships, thereby creating a web of truly differentiated strategic links with both major and emerging powers as well as with international organizations worldwide. Notwithstanding its recent introduction to the discipline, such popularity of the term within international relations and political science literature illustrates a successful migration of the idea of strategic partnerships from business and organizational studies from which it originates. Herein both strategic partnerships and strategic alliances are used to connote the idea. Among international organizations, China's strategic partners are the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, the European Union, EU, the African Union, O, the Arab League, AL, and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC. Like alliances, strategic partnerships are inherently related to security issues. It is hard to imagine any strategic partnership without dealing the security threats. The parties involved determine their goal, roles, and worldview in each other's mirrors. It is not necessarily strategic partnership can just emerge from a friendly bonding, it could be otherwise. Both the parties can have a common allies confrontation. It is no secret that Iran needs a partner, not an alliance, to breathe in the global arena, as the partnership has been strategized, thus less oxygen for Iran eventually means equal suffocation for China. China has a clear-cut strategy of live and let live which will fully benefit Iran. Iran's domestic situation until and unless becoming a security issue creates no concern for China. How you govern your country, or is it true democracy plus if your people need to be rescued, are forbidden in China's Book of Power. What do regional observers think about China-Iran strategic cooperation? Regional experts believe that Iran-China's strategic partnership not only promised to invest $4 billion in Middle Eastern oil and gas resources, rather it will work to counter U.S. dominance in the region. The accord also brings Iran into the grasp of the Belt and Road Infrastructure Scheme, an ambitious scheme worth the equivalent of over $1 trillion, aiming to link China to Europe and Africa via a series of new land and sea-based infrastructure projects across dozens of nations. Iran believes that the military presence of the United States in West Asia is the root cause of regional instability, and collective efforts by regional parties are needed to ensure regional security. Now China is standing in Hormuz, and the United States and its Middle Eastern allies will not in a position to take unilateral decisions in the future about this sensitive and strategically important location. Ambassador, retired, Syed Hassan Javed, who served as Pakistan's ambassador to Germany, Singapore, and Mauritius, is an expert on Chinese diplomacy, and he worked in China in 2 diplomatic assignments for nearly a decade. When asked to comment on China-Iran Strategic Partnership Agreement, he said that the 25-year agreement signed by China and Iran marks a strategic and historic breakthrough in China's policy and relations with West Asia, and by implication the Middle East and Gulf. The talk of this agreement had long been going on and hence not totally unanticipated. Ambassador Syed Hassan Javed said that Wang Yi began his official tour from Saudi Arabia in a carefully balanced and mature initiative. His interview to Al Arabia, spelling out China's 5-point proposal for peace and development in the region, i.e. mutual respect, upholding equity and justice, achieving non-proliferation, jointly fostering collective security, accelerating development cooperation, is widely seen as masterstroke in strategic competition with the West. China's move has disarmed the Western powers of any narrative and further reduced them to utter irrelevance in the broader Middle East region. The Western powers' dilemmas were already compounding with the success of China's Belt and Road Initiative and their inability to produce a counter-narrative. Both Iran and China took time to strike this agreement, on which few details have been made public. It is believed to include a US $400 billion investment in modernization of Iran's infrastructure, energy, science, and technology projects. China regards Iran as a major country in the Belt and Road Initiative. Senator Mushahid Hussain Syed, who is known for strengthening the foreign relations with China and Central Asia, believes that Iran-China strategic agreement is good for the region and positive for Pakistan's interests, as it strengthens regional economic connectivity, of which Pakistan is the hub, thanks to CPEC and the Belt and Road Initiative. When asked to comment on the deal, he further said that with the Chinese role in Iran, and both good friends of Pakistan, Pakistan's western flank is secured, helping stability in Baluchistan and strengthening the role of Gwadar Port in promoting regional connectivity with China, Afghanistan, Iran, and Central Asian republics. Regrettably, after just one phone call from the United States, India reneged on the IPI, Iran-Pakistan-India, pipeline and opted instead for a nuclear deal with the US, while Pakistan stuck to the gas pipeline agreement with Iran. Regionalism will promote peace in Afghanistan and lessen tensions in this strategic region. Pakistan, China, and Iran are all committed to peace in Afghanistan, commented Senator Mushahid Hussain Syed. Ambassador Naqvi is presently serving as the founding executive director of the Center for International Strategic Studies, CISS, which is an independent and autonomous think tank. When asked to comment on China-Iran agreement, he was of the view that the deal between China and Iran had wider implications ranging from economic perspectives and part of a process of bilateral relations between China and Iran, including earlier deals of supply of oil. Ambassador Naqvi stated that the economic relation between China and Iran were taking shape in a big way and had political consequences in the region and would impact of Afghanistan's situation also. While commenting on the regional perspective of the deal, Ambassador Naqvi was of the view that the deal would be supportive to resolve the Afghanistan issue, where China is trying along with Russia and Pakistan for a peace deal between the Taliban and Kabul. He was confident that the China-Iran deal will not affect time-tested China-Pakistan relations, rather this deal would help Iran-Pakistan in a diplomatic as well as in an economic way. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, will get support from this deal because now this project may be extended to Iranian soil because China and Iran are already partners in Belt and Road Initiative, Ambassador Naqvi concluded. Senior journalist and development observer whose core area of work includes Central Asia and Eastern Europe, Aga Iker Harun believes that Iran is one of the topmost countries whose geostrategic positioning had been their threat instead of strength in the last 40 years, and they had been in constant diplomatic stresses. Harun said that it was understood that China would definitely secure its maritime Silk Road at every place and cannot afford any choke point out of its access. China's new maritime Silk Road has a philosophy of mitigating the situation of the Strait of Malacca, therefore, it invested in Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and now Iran. Connecting Iran with China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, is one of the options but not the only one, and presence in Iran will connect China to the Persian Gulf via Central Asia. China believes in a win-win approach instead of fixing with one country and one option. Dr. Talat Jaber, Director China-Pakistan Study Center at Institute of Strategic Studies Islamabad, when asked to share his opinion over China-Iran deal, he said, "Essentially, with this new agreement, China has sought to increase its relative influence in the Middle East at a time when China-US relations are strained. It lays the framework of future China-Iran economic cooperation and would enable China to have an additional economic cooperation framework besides Pakistan. Meanwhile, this agreement will also strengthen Iran's hand in pushing back against the US as it secures an alternative economic support option." John W. Garver is an emeritus professor in the Sam Nunn School of International Affairs at the Georgia Institute of Technology. He served for many years on the editorial boards of China Quarterly, Journal of Contemporary China Issues and Studies, and Asian Security. He is a member of the National Committee on U.S. China Relations. In his article published in the year 2016 titled China and Iran, an Emerging Partnership Post-Sanctions, he indicated that China was crucial in assisting Iran to escape deep isolation and rejoin the global economy through the conclusion of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, establishing itself as an arbiter between the United States and Iran throughout the P5+1 negotiations. Beijing had placed as a top priority averting a military confrontation between Iran and the United States, or Israel, which it calculated would have been disastrous not only for Iran but for Chinese interests in the region. But China's influential diplomacy in the P5+1 talks was also centered on its long-time strategy for Tehran. The Chinese aim to gradually grow with Iran a multidimensional partnership based on mutual understanding and trust, and see in Iran a potential power that could act as its partner in Asia, wrote Garver. Garver's comments can help to understand that China has not come to Iran just for strategic partnership or business deal, rather it has landed to engage Iran as its Asian partner. Will this development impact the Middle Eastern-centric policy of Pakistan or not? Will be clear by actions taken by Pakistan, not by statements.